Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by drroto.com.
We're back. What is up and welcome in. We are the One and Done Show. We are your fast break of college basketball information. I am your not so humble host, Eric Romoff. You can catch me on those Twitter streets at FantasyNav. And he is the captain of our ship at Greenscreens Media. He is MC Hall34 on Twitter. He is Mr. Mike Holland. Mike, how you feeling? We got a little less than an hour before the lock of tonight's slate.
Hey, I'm feeling good, man. Happy New Year to you and to everyone out there watching.
Yes, sir.
I'm ready to make some money, man. I'm ready to make some money. We got a 6-game slate on a Thursday, and we don't have any NFL. So wish the old prize pool was a little bit bigger on DraftKings, and the slate side, or the amount of people that could have joined the $12 today was a little bit bigger because it filled about 20 minutes ago or so. That's just DraftKings doing their thing, never getting it right. So, but regardless, man, I'm excited for it.
You know that we are in the new year because there were a couple of slates over the last week or so that were getting 92% full, right? A little bit of overlay out there. Not no more. It's college basketball season. Those slates are filling up hours before lock. So they should have some secondary contests opening up. Keep an eye out for those. Like we will be keeping an eye out on our comment section. BD816. Don't know what these squares are, but I'm going to tell myself it's a salute. Salute to you as well. Thanks for coming through. Mama rocks. Happy New Year. Let's get it. Let's go get it. Indeed. Tommy Kramer, the second hour is free. You know this. So we will traverse right along into our slate overview. Mike, you kind of mentioned it off the top. We got a 6-gamer that tips off here in about 52 minutes. 2K to first is the big prize that is on deck for tonight. What are your thoughts overall heading into tonight's games?
Well, we reached conference play, so it's not going to take a lot of fantasy points. Some key injuries out there we got to look at. We'll see what happens with De Silva. We'll see if N'Faly Dante makes his return. Don't think it's going to happen, but that could shake things up a little bit. I am having a hard time playing anybody under 5K. I've got a couple of guys I'm looking at rostering, but other than that, man, like it's tough to get there. And there's no really outside of a couple of guys and mainly Brandon Carlson, like there aren't really those high price stud forwards that you need to find the value. So there's just a bunch of different ways to attack this, man. So yeah, I've been tinkering around. It's a tough slate. I'm excited for it because these make for interesting top prize lineups for sure.
Yeah, the slate is kind of tricky. Pricing feels pretty tight. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring slate, right? Like we're probably looking at like a 4.5x type of build. Should be pretty close to the top of the pay scale. For me, like the keys to this slate is like just how much of this Arizona-Colorado game are we going to get into, right? Like that is very much so the golden goose, the crown jewel of this 6-gamer. But also, whenever that's the case, like finding another game that might, be a little bit sneaky that maybe doesn't have the same game total, but we like to go over. Maybe like a North Texas, Wichita State is one that we can sprinkle some skinny stacks into, get a little bit different from the field. So those are my thoughts heading in before we jump into our beloved DFS Core 4. This chat is absolutely live right now. Thank you all for checking in. If you have not already, we are the weirdos out here talking college basketball 365 days a year. The best way to support us is hitting those like and subscribe buttons. Definitely keep that conversation going in the chat. Like our guy Jay Heinrich. It's time. And of course, Mama Rocks out there. Jay, where's Jay? Cam.
Nobody likes us, man. They don't hear Jay.
And look, here's the real answer. All right. Jay's a working man. Not everybody can be here 5 o'clock Central Time. We'll get some PTO days on the calendar. Make sure that Jay can get a couple of live before locks in. And look, Mama Rocks is here. She's looking at a couple of cheap guards. I think we're probably going to be eyeballing some of those plays as well. We'll get into those as we get into our slate breakdown.
I do like Tommy Kramer, Eric. You did miss it. I don't know if we can flash that first comment up on the screen about the joke, but that is pretty funny. The second hour being free.
Oh, look at this!
I guess we can flash it.
Yeah, so. Look, we'll keep it up there for a second. We don't have transcriptions on yet because we're doing it live, so we should be cool to flash it. Definitely missed the joke, and also missed BD816 letting us know they were green circles, getting ready to see those green screens. So let's jump right into it with none other than our beloved Core 4 right off the top. So these are the plays that we are making a top priority in our builds tonight. We're going to call them out here so that you can start working your way through your builds as we go game by game. First player that we have to get to here, Brandon Carlson, our cover boy, the Utah forward, 8.8K. I mean, look, this is an absolutely fantastic price tag for him. It's a shorter slate, so raw scoring is going to matter, right? So we're gonna get some of that up in here with Brandon Carlson. Moving on to Javon Hadley, 6.2K, the guard out of Colorado. I mean, look, this kid is. It feels like he's really heating up a lot lately. He feels like he offers a pretty good value or good return on his value at 6.2K. For that one in particular, watching the De Silva news, that obviously is going to impact his utilization in this game. Then we're going on to Kylan Boswell, the cornerstone of our attack in that Arizona game. He is the 5.9K guard for the Arizona side. And then finally, going over to the Michigan side, Olivier Nkamwa, the forward, 7.6K. I mean, look, that game might get a little bit ugly overall, but I like how that play sets up in terms of his contribution in that game. So that's how we're shaping it all out here. Mike, before we jump into the actual game breakdowns, any thoughts on this Core 4, kind of how it came together, how you think your builds will look like if you are building around these 4 players?
Yeah, well, Mama Rocks kind of hit it on the head right here. There's some interesting news. I don't know how much I can really go here because Oregon likes to play 1,000 people, even when they do have a bunch of people out. But Mookie Cook is making his debut. We will see. I mean, they're down Biddle. They're down Dante. Zarzuela's gone. So, yeah, he's a 3.2K at the forward position. A little nervous on the road at Washington for his first start. So Mookie Cook's kind of interesting. But overall, man, I'm looking to really work the mid-tier. To get into Carlson, you're probably going to have to play at least one value play. That's kind of tough to find. I've got 2 of my 6 builds so far, taking a couple of shots on some guys that we're going to talk about here. But I think there's some interesting tournament options that we're going to talk about. So I've got some double ups that I'm going to get into as well, where I'll be playing this core, which is more of a cash core. Carlson, safe for both. He's been out of his mind lately. It's a fast-paced game. Hadley, more of a cash game player. Boswell, more of a cash guy. Kamwa has a little bit of tournament upside. So that core 4 is more of a cash core. You can go to guys like Terrace Reed. You can spend up for Caleb Love at 8K off of Boswell. So, yeah, we're going to talk about it and break it all down. But that core 4 for sure offers you, if you're in those double ups and those smaller tournaments under 200 people, under 100 people, that's a really good core to get you started.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes back to the slate overview that we opened with, right? Like, a 4X type of night is something that we think is going to be in position to win, right? So these higher floor plays are ones that, we should be able to build around, and you just sprinkle in the right low-owned guy, the right upside guy, and you're going to be cooking. So definitely like how this core 4 is getting us started off. Just like Corey McDaniel likes how he's starting off his new year with the core
the
four.
Single entry,
guy,
the $5 single entry champion.
I can't believe this. Like we have maybe the best CBB single entry player in all of the land in our chat. My guy is just binking these single entry contests left and right. Shout out Corey. Love that you're seeing those green screens. Appreciate you checking in. So Mike, let us carry on forward to our first game on the slate. This slate, the sixth gamer, starts off with a little bit of Big Ten action, and then we close out on the West Coast, the best coast, with some Pac-12 games. But with that Big Ten action, the first one that is on the board, Penn State at Michigan State. This is one that is carrying a 144-point total. Penn State is a pretty big underdog here, getting 14 points on the road. With that Penn State side, they are 109th in offensive efficiency, 122nd in defensive. Pretty good clip overall, 63rd in tempo, and about middle of the pack in terms of bench minutes. Michigan State side, much better on the offensive front, 36th, even better defensively, 13th, nice and slow, just like Papa Izzo likes it, 305th in tempo and 49th in bench minute. We know that he loves these rotations. So for me, like, you know, we'll talk a bit more about just kind of the trajectory of this Michigan State program when we get to that side. So, Mike, why don't we start off with the Nittany Lions? Who's catching your eye on that side of this game?
Not a lot. I don't even know if I'm going to end up with one of these guys. They run a hard 9 to 10 man rotation. They're playing a lot of guys. Clary's price point is just a little too much for me. Ace Baldwin at 7,200. Somewhat interesting as if you're in that large field. If you got in there before it closed down, or you're getting into the dollar, I don't mind taking a shot or two on Ace Baldwin. I mean, the guy's just so good. He can rack up 3 steals. He can get you some assists. I don't mind an Ace Baldwin call here for large field tournaments only. And honestly, the rest of this team, Wahab, too expensive. Zach Hicks, too expensive for his minutes. Puff Johnson, just priced up now. Just all these guys are just too expensive, man. So I just, yeah, man, I don't like much of Penn State. They're obviously got the lowest implied total on the slate here at 65 points. So, I mean, they're tied right there with North Texas and Wichita State. But that game is on. We'll talk about that game in a minute. But just on its own, like it doesn't feel great because of the pricing. The pricing in the North Texas Wichita State game is just so much better than paying up for these Penn State guys. So I don't know, man. Like for me, I'll probably take one shot in my six tournament lineups on Baldwin, but I'm not gonna feel great about it. But I gotta try to get different somewhere. So I might take a shot on Baldwin, but outside of that, not much else. What do you got working on this side?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because like Baldwin is arguably one of, if not their most talented player, but not necessarily coming in with that lofty of a price tag. I gotta shout out our guy Puff Johnson. Like this is a dude that we were just waiting for him to get more run and to break through when he was a Tar Heel last season. Finally started getting that run here at Penn State. But like you mentioned, that price tag, 5.1K. This is the guy that we were playing sub 4s like 2 or 3 slates ago. So I mean, he's just cost prohibitive on a slate where value is a little bit thin overall. Clary, I mean, he's kind of interesting. His price tag is astronomical. 8.6K is just kind of wild. I didn't think that we were going to be at that point. If you want to, he's kind of an example of, one of those mega contrarian pieces that you can plop on top of, the core that we gave out and really be a difference maker. The shot rate is fantastic, 30% in that regard. Like if this is a game where he goes off and this game stays closer than the 14-point spread that it has right now, like, he could be one of those guys that, could be a kind of slate breaker type, right? So like, I don't mind it, but 8.6K on top of an already expensive core 4, like it's like we're going to be scraping the bottom of the barrel for some value.
Probably have to play Mookie. Well, I have to take a shoot on Mookie Cook at that point. But I mean, I mean,
look, we're out here scratching and clawing, looking for forward value. So I might put him in. I might put Mookie Cook in just on principle alone, right? Like this is our opportunity to play a basically min price forward. But yeah, Kane Clary. I mean, the upside's there. He's not going to be popular. but it really restricts you in terms of the way that you approach the rest of your roster as we approach the rest of this game, i.e. the Michigan State side. This is a Michigan State side that has been coming on lately, right? Like, it feels like Hoggard is starting to play a little bit more consistently and really giving them what they need. They're certainly shooting the ball from downtown much better than they had to open the season. I think they opened the season like 2 for 40 or something like that. So
Yeah.
stabilized kind of back to their baseline in terms of their 3-point shooting. So Mike, I feel like it's tricky with, with the rotation that they have out there, just how many bench minutes that he's trotting out night in and night out. But, looking for Sparty, like are there any plays that are, really jumping out as the priority for you?
Yeah, I mean, you look at it and what do we have there projected? 79 points on KenPom, so 80 points. I mean, I'm interested. The problem is God, if this game blows out, like, I mean, 15, 20 points, it's not terrible, but you get a little worried about how many of these guys, actually get run out there for minutes tonight. So a little scary, but you have Tyson Walker. He's 8K. Good tournament play. At this price point, we're trying to save some salary, right? Because it's tough to find some value. So, if you want to run Tyson Walker out there, you kind of know what you're going to get. More of a cash game type play. Same with Hoggard. Hoggard is 6,900. I debated back and forth, seeing whether or not we wanted to put him in our core. And if you want to make him a core piece, he's right there. I mean, he's basically right there. I mean, he's just been so good. Basically putting up 30 fantasy points, over the last few games here. So don't mind some AJ Hoggard. I'm a little more interested in getting kind of different towards the bottom here. Trey Holloman, he's 4,700. He is kind of that fourth guard now. Jeremy Fears, obviously, that situation, we hope he recovers after, the shooting and everything. Man, that's pretty sad to hear. But, he'll be back, hopefully sooner than later. But, Holloman kind of stepping into that, those lead guard minutes off the bench, and he's 4,700. So if he's someone that's going to give, if I could circle 21 fantasy points at 4,700, I think that's something that I want. He's also going to be safer in blowout. If he's probably going to get a few extra minutes, and every minute matters on these tight slates like this. So Trey Holloman, definitely interesting. Jay Nakins is always a tournament play. I don't think I'm going to get to him, but he's interesting. You should put him if you're going to play some of these dollar deals. At 5,700, like it doesn't feel great. It's not the biggest savings in the world, but he's a guy that can get you 28 to 30 if his shot's falling. He's knocking down threes. He just doesn't do much else. Very much shot dependent. And I do not like the old shot dependency. So for me, I'm really staring at these guards. I've got Hoggard in one. I've got Holloman in the other. Maybe I'm doing it wrong, man. There's Malik Hall just kind of sitting there at 5,900 who just went off. I think a lot of people are going to go there. He's just a little scary because he's volatile, man. What say you? Are you going to play a couple of guys at this 80-point implied total or what?
Yeah, I mean, look, I definitely want to find ways to get into this game. Kind of like you were just talking about with Akins, like shot dependent guys that are volatile, like Hall, like. The upside is fantastic. You love getting there, but that volatility specifically in this like mid to upper 5K range, it's just like if he blanks, you're having a real short night, which isn't bad. You can go like talk to your family or take the dog for a walk or whatever, right? But like we're out here trying to get this bread, right? So like it should be a lower scoring slate. I tend to err on the side of someone that is a little bit more consistent. For me, like the spot's interesting. There's a log jam in terms of the guards for Michigan State, but when you get to these forwards, it's a little bit of a clearer picture. The thing that probably worries me most about Hall, if I'm being honest, is just the blowout potential. Like he's already a boom bust player as it is. If he sees his minutes trickle down, even just a handful,
right.
it could really mean, a pretty rough night for him. You can sprinkle him in tournaments if you happen to get a handful of shells into that $12. By all means, put him on a lineup or two, watch him go off. Honestly, Mike, I think I'm right there with you, right? Like Holloman, this is a player that is seeing his minutes increase in light of the tragic shooting that you mentioned earlier. He did make his way back into the field house a few nights ago. Place went absolutely bananas, but also Holloman, I feel like a blowout might actually kind of help him out a little bit, right? Get from those low 20s into the mid 20s. So, 4.7K, don't mind getting there at all. We will keep moving on along to our next game. We're sticking with the Big Ten, the other Michigan team going in the exact opposite direction of Michigan State. That is the Michigan Wolverines. They are at home hosting the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Minnesota is a 6-point underdog. Its implied total is at 152 points. Minnesota is better than league average, both offensively and defensively, a little bit better on the offensive side, about league average in tempo, 74th in bench minutes. So a lot of guys seeing a lot of run. Michigan is playing fairly well on the offensive side, 24th in that regard, about league average in terms of defensive efficiency as well as pace. 358th in bench minutes. Have a clear picture of those starters getting out there and getting a lot of runs. So we will start with the visiting side. That is the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Mike, any thoughts about this 8-man rotation and where you are clicking the button?
I'm not going to click Dawson Garcia tonight, even though I think he has a little bit of juice, but it's a tough front line, man, like Terrace Reed and Kamwa there. So 8,300, not clicking that one. Elijah Hawkins at 7,800. Probably not going to get to him either. Really, my interest lies with Mike Mitchell at 6,300. Here's a guy that is kind of rounding out a lot of my mid-tier builds. You know exactly what you need. You can get 30 minutes from him. You're probably going to get mid to high 20s in fantasy points. So I'll take my 4.5x and kind of just move along, man. I just not in love with anything really on this Minnesota side. I kind of like the Michigan side more. You got anybody on Minnesota you want to rock with?
We can talk about Cam Christie, right? 6.1K. Like there's going to be a lot of builds of mine that are going to be right in this mid tier. I mean, he's out there for just a ton of minutes every single night. He's got mid 20s, even mid 30s. Well represented in his range of outcomes. His rates are solid, right? Like just a nice steady guy, pretty good floor. This is the kind of player that maybe if you're looking to save some money, you can pivot off of a 7 or 8K range type of guy and get some salary relief by going to Christie, who's going to be out there for, again, a pile of minutes. So don't mind clicking his name. But what I would like to click on is the Michigan Wolverines side of this game. I mean, look, we talked about their ranking 358th in bench minutes. So we know the guys that are going to be out there. You mentioned having some interest as we were leading up to this one. So I guess, start us off. Who is the player that you are most interested in for the Michigan side? And then some other guys that might be, kind of a sprinkling type of play.
Yeah, we got Kamwa in the core at 7,600 at that forward spot. You pretty much, I feel like you can lock him in for 30 plus fantasy points, which you don't mind at that price point. Yeah, he's just so steady. So love Kamwa here. I don't mind Doug McDaniel. Where I'm not playing Kamwa, I'm probably going to play Doug McDaniel at 7,500. Kind of my positioning right now.
McBuckets in the 7Ks is just wild.
Yeah, you'd love it, right? Because he's going to play 1,000 minutes. Take a lot of shots, high usage player, 7,500. You like it. So I'll be using Doug McDaniel where I'm not using Kamwa. And I'm also playing McDaniel, at least on one lineup right now, with Terrace Reed for tournament upside. Ooh. So if Kamwa doesn't have that 30 to 35, 40 fantasy point game, I want to get to McDaniel because it's going to go through him. And then I want to get some Terrace Reed because obviously, playing that forward position, feels like, you can get two of these guys at that price, 5,800 and 7,500. You're kind of right there at the kind of your average salary, a little bit over your average salary, kind of right there. Yeah, exactly. You're just working through that mid. Exactly. He's a direct pivot off Kamwa, who should have some ownership, plenty of ownership tonight. So I don't mind, Terrace Reed. Are you all about him, or are you going somewhere else? I mean, Terrence Williams, he's playing a lot of minutes. Damari Burnett, he's okay, but we have to pay attention to Jalen Llewellyn news. So really, it's just those three guys for me, man. What say you?
Yeah, that's really it, right? Like the strength of this team, is going through the front court. I really like that Terrace Reed call, right? Like not only do you get the salary savings coming off of Kamwa, but also Kamwa's in our core. He's probably going to be a fairly popular player tonight, so you get the leverage by pivoting off of him. The minutes for Reed are a little bit inconsistent, right? 22 in that last one, 45 in the game before, kind of mid 20s before that. Like, it's not without its risk, but like, we talk all the time about how top heavy these pay scales are in college basketball. Like, if you're trying to get to that, to that very top spot, a pivot onto Terrace Reed and off of Kamwa is exactly the type of move that can do it. So don't mind that at all. And speaking of moves, we will move on to our next game. Before we do, Snake Eyes hitting us with the literal like and thumbs up. Hey, all you out there watching, all 2, 3, 50 dozen of you, be like Snake Eyes. Hit that like button. We appreciate your support. And in my guide to Fanboys Media over here with the trophy yellow smiling. Absolutely love it when emojis are spelled out in the chat. Makes it so much easier than those box. We appreciate you swinging on through as we swing on down to our next game. North Texas is a 1-point favorite at Wichita State. This is a game that is also carrying a 152-point total. North Texas, about league average in terms of offensive efficiency, stout in terms of defensive efficiency, 39th in that regard. 360th in tempo. You don't love to see that, but that means that they are the ones that are getting paced up overall. They're 270th in bench minutes. So, pretty tight rotation in terms of their starters getting run. Wichita State, almost the exact inverse, right? 173 in offensive efficiency, 95th defensively, 65th in tempo. So North Texas is getting paced up here as we have a programming note. This one is actually a 131 point total. So graphics department taking a night off, getting a little sloppy here. We will certainly scold and ridicule them off air, but 131 point. Mike, like I mentioned, the North Texas side. I mean, look, if you're 360th in tempo, you're pretty much getting paced up every night. But facing off against the 65th team in pace, like these guys are going to be out there running and gunning. What are you liking for the old Mean Green?
Yeah, this game's interesting, right? 131 point total, but I think it's going to play closer to 140, 145. So getting close to that 152 you see up there on the screen. Not quite going to get there. But when North Texas only plays 271st in bench minutes and Wichita State's 345th in bench minutes, the guys that are going to be out there. We love that for DFS purposes. North Texas runs out a hard 7-man rotation, so the guys that are going to be there. Aaron Scott, sort of intriguing, guard forward eligible, 7K, high usage, high shot rate. I don't know that I'll get to that price point with him. I may put him on one tournament team.
$500 too much, right?
Yeah, just about $500 too much, exactly. And so I may do it just because I don't think these guys should be that high owned. I mean, Reuben Jones, 6,300. I'm probably going to have him on my tournament lineup. One, I need the salary savings. Two, I kind of know what I'm getting from him, right? Like he's more of a floor type play, but raw points do matter. So if you want the upside, like go with Scott, but you pay the $700 to get the upside. If you want the guy that's going to be on the floor a bunch and is getting, this team is getting paced up. So if Wichita State gets their way and North Texas, I was watching the Xavier Villanova game last night, and it's like almost this carbon copy of this type of game. And, Villanova got sped up. They ended up taking 23s in the first half. Now they only hit 5 of them, but that's something that could happen is North Texas is going to be taking a whole lot more shots and getting a lot more possessions than we're used to, which can give these guys an extra 1X where we're not used to them. We're usually North Texas is playing in these, real stinker 131s. If it goes over, though, Scott or Jones is probably going to go off. Nolan and Walker are kind of interesting value plays. They're so tough to roster, though. Like Nolan, he starts, but he just doesn't play a lot of minutes, and it's just tough at 4,700. It's just annoying, man. And then Rondell Walker, 3,500, got the waiver, obviously, with the two-time transfer deal. So he's 3,500. I mean, really hasn't been playing any minutes, but, I mean, he's coming from the Big 12, and a former Oklahoma State TCU player. So, I mean, we know he has pedigree, right? So I might take a shot on him just to see if he gets some run or maybe some foul trouble for Scott or Jones. So these guys, I mean, they're in the tournament player pool, but not much else, man. What's your read on this team?
I think you're pretty much spot on. The only person that we haven't talked about is Jason Edwards, right? Um, like we say all the time, shot dependent guys in the mid 5Ks are always going to be, inherently risky. But like if you think about this game environment overall, like this is projected to be a close game. UNT is trying to win this one. They're getting paced up to a dramatic effect, and specifically like if they're trying to come out and win this game, like they're going to need his scoring, right? So like again, it's a little bit risky, but I don't mind sprinkling him in tournaments specifically, right? Like he's going to play high 20s minutes. If this is the night with those handful of extra possessions that the pace up spot should grant North Texas, if those turn into buckets for him, like he can be out there, cooking with grease, right? Like he's got several 30s in his game logs. The lows are obviously low because he's so shot dependent, but yeah, I mean, someone that you can sprinkle in at a pretty reasonable price tag overall. So don't mind going there. But yeah, I mean, for me, like I really like paying up on this North Texas side, right? Like those rotations are so tight that you've got a pretty clear picture on where the minutes and where the usage are going to go through. And that moves us on to the Wichita State side. Another hard rotation here. They tend to trot out 8 guys instead of 7, and they are the ones that are doing the pacing up, right? So, Mike, kind of like you mentioned, there's an outcome where they impose their will. They get this game really running and gunning. So, if that's the case, or even if not, what are the priorities on the Wichita State side?
Yeah, I'm having trouble. Having trouble getting to any of these guys, man. I like the prices, but there is that scary factor of this game playing close to 131, and the fact that although they're 345th in bench, Ronnie DeGray and Bijan Cortez have just entered kind of the rotation over the last few games and are playing a lot of minutes and sapping down some of these minutes from Bell, Poito, Beverly. So they're risky. I don't know. Like, I'm okay if you one off this. Like I would go with Kenny Poto if I had to, go with any of these guys. He's 6K. I think his minutes are a little more secure. Should probably play right around 30 minutes. I know the last game, kind of a blowout situation with with Kansas. But
Kansas State.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Like I just don't want to get to any of these guys really. Like if you want to take a shot at DeGray at 3,600, like okay, but I'm not excited about that. You'd rather as well play Mookie Cook. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's just going to be Poto. Like if you had to choose one of these guys, Rogers, Beverly, Poto, Bell, DeGray, I mean, which one are you leaning towards?
I mean, I think of that lot, Harlan Beverly probably gives you the best tournament leverage, which is not nothing, right? He falls right into that nice mid-tier price tag that I'm going to be building around a ton. I mean, look, like his minutes have been down a little bit lately, but I still think he can reach back and get to value on this 6K price tag. 4x, 4.5x should get it done, right? So like, don't mind going here at all, and we will go on to the back half of this slate. We got 3 games left. We're going to go into overdrive on some of these as we are moving through these. Make sure that you have hit those like and subscribe buttons. We got some new commenters in here. Slime material with the little prayer hoops. We've got the international contingent checking in from Patty. Wants to know what our pick of the night is. Mike, do you have anyone other than the core 4 that we mentioned, or would your pick of the night be from that core 4?
No, pick of the night. It's going to be Brandon Carlson. I think it's tough not to play him, especially with the way he's playing and the pace of that game. So we'll talk about that one here in just a second.
Dude, and those raw points are going to be so important tonight. So we will head over, as promised, to the Pac-12. Oregon is a 4-point underdog at Washington, 154-point total in this one. Oregon, very solid both offensively and defensively, about middle of the road in tempo. Pretty big rotation, 80th in bench minutes. Washington, almost identically as solid, 49th and 59th in terms of offensive and defensive efficiency, much faster tempo, 45th. So they are doing the pacing up and not nearly as many bench minutes, 266 in that regard. Mike, take a quick look at Oregon. Like, is anything really jumping off the page for you?
I mean, the fact that they got Mookie Cook is slightly interesting. We kind of talked about that. I mean, 3,200. Like, you could take a chance on him, but they just play so many guys out there starting to get a little bit healthy. Like Dante, I think if he's questionable, but I think he's out. But if he's in, like it just mucks everything up. I think if I had to play one guy from here, Jackson Shellstad at 7,100 is probably the most interesting piece, just because he's getting a ton of run. He's looked really good. So shout out to Jay for his favorite player and Pac-12 newcomer of the year. So yeah, I mean, I like Tracy, Cuisinart, like Aquindo. It's just not for me, man. Like if I had to play someone on this side, it's probably gonna be Shellstad. What do you got?
For me, it'd probably be Evans, but the price is tricky, right? Like 8.2K, I'm already going to be spending 8+ on Carlson, but with Evans, like he's been so pivotal for them. The thing with Evans is it's probably going to depend on the Dante status. The reporting doesn't look overly optimistic in that regard. So, if he's going to be out, Evans should get a boost there. He's obviously going to have some pretty legitimate upside at this price tag. But the price just in general is super tough. Like it's hard to get another 8K guy on a slate where the pricing is tight and the value is limited. So he would probably be the one for me. But I mean, I would almost be certainly pivoting off of Carlson to get to him, and I don't really want to do that, right? So take that with a grain of salt as we take you to the Washington side, Mike. Another 8-9 man rotation here. Those guys are getting pretty much all the minutes when they are out there. So, any specifically kind of price oriented plays that are catching your eyes here? Any good points per dollar value options?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to go to Corin Johnson, but he's a little risky. I mean, he's 5,500 now. He put up the big game last game, but he's only going to play, probably low 20s minutes. So. I'm not as excited, but he does have upside when he gets his shot going. So if you want to play him, okay. I'm probably going to fade him. Probably going to be eating my words later, but whatever. Severe Wheeler, I feel like it's a really good tournament option at 6,800. He would probably be in a tournament core 4. So I don't mind him. High assist rate. Just hasn't been shooting the ball well. Keon Brooks at 7,700. Like he's okay. He's going to play high 30s minutes. He's a really good player. He's 7,700. So. I don't mind, sprinkling in some Keon Brooks. I got some interest in Braxton Mia at 4,200. Oh. So it's terrifying, but tournament upside is you just don't know if you're going to get the minutes. It's totally a tournament play, but he can put up 20 to 25 fantasy points when he gets 20 minutes. So a little bit of interest in Braxton Mia. I have him on 1 of 6 just to see if I can catch that 20 fantasy point game, but really overall, man, I'm really looking at. I think I got one Corin Johnson right now. I got a Wheeler lineup. I've got one Brooks. I'm kind of just spreading it out. I don't mind if you stack them either. I mean, they've got a high implied total. I'm just in love with the next game though. So, I'm okay. He's there, man. At 4,600, the price is plummeted. Would you click the name?
I mean, that's the story with Mulcahy, right? Like all the way down at 4.6K, a guy that was north of 6K, 6.2K in recent memory. And he's a guy that, he can rack up assists and steals, and specifically with those steals, like he's at a price point where each one of those steals really moves the needle for him. Like, he just needs to get to like 20, which is totally in his range of outcomes. And he's nice and cheap, like 4.6K. There aren't a whole lot of guys that are going to be down around this price tag that are going to give you as much run and as much scoring potential as Mulcahy. So don't mind going there at all. And we will go on to our next game, the crown jewel, the one that we are going to be building as the cornerstone of our lineups. Colorado, a 9-point underdog at Arizona. This one carries a beautiful 163-point total. Colorado is coming in red hot in terms of their ratings overall, 29th and 28th in terms of offensive and defensive. Good clip, 87th in tempo, and they're getting paced up about league average in bench minutes. Arizona, not surprisingly, when you consider the way they've been playing lately, but 7th in both offensive and defensive efficiency, 4th in tempo. Another team about league average in bench minutes. So, Mike, let's just dive right into the Colorado side. There are a number of different ways that we want to try to attack this game. How are you going about it with regard to Colorado?
Yeah, a lot of this depends on Da Silva. If Da Silva's out, obviously a lot of these guys we like. KJ Simpson's all the way up at 9K. If you can get to him, you got to play him. It's a pace up spot too. So I mean, they play fast. Two teams that play really fast. Arizona's obviously 4th. Colorado's 87th. So be a lot of possessions, a lot of points, a lot of opportunities. So KJ Simpson's there at 9K. I worry a little bit about that price tag, which is why I like the Hadleys, the Hammonds a little bit more. So I think if I had to choose, and if Da Silva's out, like I'm looking at Hammond, I'm looking at a little bit of Lampkin at 6,500. That Arizona side with their pricing is just real juicy. We have Hadley in the core, man. How are you feeling about him? You feel good about that one?
Yeah, I do. Stop me if you've heard this before. Another guy right in that 6K range, right? So like the minutes and the shot rate are certainly up with the Williams injury. He fits into that, balanced build that we've talked about. He's also a stacking option with Simpson, right? These are guys that, that distribute enough to where you can feel pretty comfortable stacking them up. I mean, look, they're going to need a second guy to get buckets. Obviously, these plays are plays that you should probably slot into your utility spot in case we get late news or as we get late news on Da Silva. But yeah, don't mind getting to Hadley at 6.2K. I mean, he's in the core for a reason, right? So we don't need to belabor that point. But yeah, Mike, you teased it perfectly. Moving over to the Arizona side, I mean, there is a ton to like here for the Wildcats, right? Like some guys that have slate leading upside, some guys that are just flatly mispriced. Like how are you picking apart the Wildcat side?
Yeah, love the pricing. Love the projected total. These guys should be popular. Caleb Love, 7,900. We know his upside. He's going to chuck a bunch of shots up in this game. So he's got 40, 45 fantasy points, potential. So Caleb Love is 7,900. Do like him a lot. Omar Ballo, 7,300. It's a spot where you should be able to get a double-double. So, really good tournament play for Ballo at 7,300. Like that as well. Larson at 6,400. I'm okay with that. He's not my favorite. I tend to like going up or down from him just because of the shot rate. But he's been playing well, been distributing. I've been doing a few other things. The price is ticking up a little bit each game. So, Larson's okay. Boswell, obviously a core piece, right? So like he just hasn't been shot. He just didn't shoot well last game, but he's got 30 fantasy point upside. You like the price point, right? It's under that average player salary. KJ Lewis and Jaden Bradley, like they're okay. I think Lewis's price is a little too expensive. Bradley just hasn't been playing big minutes, man. But I know your boy Key Johnson is one of your faves, and that price has plummeted, my man. What are your thoughts on him?
Man, this is going to be the story for me with Keshad Johnson just all season long, right? Like this, just watch this price fall, and there's going to be a point
where like $300, right?
Dude, he helped me snap that fourth a few weeks ago. I think he was almost 8K in that game. And this is going to be a player that like he's going to be a little volatile, right? That's why his price has come down like almost $2,000, but like at 6K, like you're right at a point where you have to feel pretty good about jumping back on, right? Like he hasn't been a factor lately. Again, why his price has fallen. He's a pretty contrarian way to get into this game and to build some stacks around. And obviously the upside is unreal, right? He's got 40 plus in his game logs here in the not too distant past. So don't mind getting to Keshad. And another note on Boswell. You mentioned him having a rough scoring woes here lately. I mean, these are still games where he's chucking up 11, 16, 14 shots, right? Like this game is going to be absolutely flying. If those start going in, like you have to feel real good about him paying off that price tag. So another shout out, another underscore as to why Boswell is in our core four. Before we move on to our last and final game, Mama Rock's checking in. Ballo too cheap, gonna smash tonight. Mike, you feeling those vibes as well?
Yeah, I do. But I also like your Key Johnson call,
Deep
man.
in that game.
So I hope everyone plays Ballo, and then Key Johnson is like 9% and just goes for 40. That would be nice.
We'll rotate them around, right? Like both of these are gonna be in pretty solid spots. One or two of these cats in every.
I've got two in every single. I've got two in every lineup. I'm not going without two. So two in everything for me.
Two at minimum would be the move for me as well. As we move on to our last game, these Utah Utes 7-point favorites at our guy Nate C. Hustle's Arizona State. 149-point total in this one. The Sun Devils are carrying a 71 implied team total. Utah at 78. Utah is putting together a pretty solid season overall. 21st offensively, 43rd defensively, 60th in tempo, about league average in bench minutes. The Sun Devils are struggling on the offensive side, 241st in that regard. Much better defensively, 37th, 59th in pace, and 301 in bench minutes. So we love to see that stat in particular. We will get to that as we get to the Arizona State side, but start us off with these Utes here, Mike. What's catching your eye for Utah?
Yeah, I mean Carlson, right? 8,800. I don't think we need to really touch on him. He's just been absolutely dominant the last few games. Yeah, just click the button, right? Worcester is 7,000, and I don't mind it. I've got him on one where I'm not playing Carlson. So on the one lineup, I'm not playing Carlson. I have Worcester. Yeah, I mean, it just does a lot. High assist rate, like can get some steals, can get you some boards. Scoring better this year. Outside of that, man, like these other guys like Keita, Smith, Madsen, I'm just not in love with the shot dependency, man. Like, you know me, man. But I mean, that's a good way to be different and win a tournament. I just worry if he's gonna be a little popular just because he's played pretty well recently, man. What do you think about Madsen?
I think he will be popular, right? Like, we know that DFS players love to chase the box score, chase the last result. They're going to see these, 30s or near 30 performances. Probably click the button, right? So like he's one of the few guys on this slate that can, legitimately put up 25 real life points. That's a pretty short list of guys on this slate, right? So like, apart from that scoring, he doesn't do a whole lot. So he kind of has to have that ceiling game in terms of his shooting. And I mean, 6.5K, like there are so many guys that profile in a similar way that are 6.1, 5.8, 5.7 that I would probably rather go to. But like you're trying to take down first in the big one, you can do worse than Madsen, especially if you like him to, have another hot shooting game as he has recently.
We got a couple of things we got to clean up because so Cody Williams potentially in. I'm not sure if that's a thing, Mama Rocks. I haven't seen it, but that shakes up a lot for the mid-tier guys. Hadley, for sure. I wouldn't put him in the core if Cody Williams is in. I'm looking at Michigan State's starting lineup. Looks like Jody jumped in here. Appreciate it, Jody. Booker, the 5-star man, starting. But Michigan State just produced their starting 5 online. It says that he's not starting. It says that Sissoko is starting. So, I mean, that's huge news that Booker isn't starting. So, I mean, I know we got like 4 minutes to lock, but this is actually like slate changing. Yeah, I don't know. So I don't know if we can confirm the Cody Williams thing. Real quick in the Arizona State side, like I don't have much interest in. I'll take a shot on Gaffney in tournaments. I'm not going to play Collins and Perez. Like they're just kind of meh. Like Adam Miller at 5,500, man. Like
say his name.
I mean, it's for the tournament shot, but the price up there is a little more difficult. So, yeah, definitely like the Utah side a little bit more, obviously. But yeah, if anyone sees here in the last few minutes with this Xavier Booker news. That would be game changing because if he played 20 to 25 minutes, that guy can probably put up some major fantasy minutes. So I'm seeing here Stephen Brooks is posting. He'll be the 4 alongside Matty Sissoko, but the team website's saying that Malik Hall is starting. So I don't know what you want to do with that. That's kind of annoying. And this is college basketball, so why would it be anything less than that?
This is the game that we play.
There's multiple people saying originally. Okay, Xavier Booker was originally listed on the live stat sheet as starter, replaced by Malik Hall a few minutes later. So, yeah, I don't think Xavier Booker's starting. So, I guess I'll find out because I have Malik Hall on one.
So yeah, sounds like that is not the case, at least based on that reporting. But this is the game that we play with CBB. So appreciate all of you guys rocking with us here on a Thursday night, leading all the way up to lineup lock here in just a few minutes. Glad that we could get in another live before lock, talk our way all the way through the entirety of tonight's 6-game slate. Definitely appreciate everyone hitting those like and subscribes. And let us know on Twitter at GetGreenScreens at One and Done CBB when you're shipping that bread, when you see those green screens yourself. So get up in here. We got one more confirming that Tommy is not starting for anyone tonight. Appreciate that breaking news. Appreciate you guys swinging through and let us get this bread.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drrodo.com. And until the next visit, be well and take care.